moments. My husband's reminding me by putting this across. And I wasn't kidding. We're really live. So here we are at 11 p.m., 11 a.m. for two of you. And for another two of us, it's 9 a.m. I'm so glad that we can all come together. And none of us are in the Netherlands, but Anne and Tommy they got in early. They wanted to get a good grade in class. So they were in their places and discovered that they both had interactions having to do with the Netherlands. I'm just thrilled by the richness here. Anne said, and I quote her, that she is ready at 5 minutes' notice to show up at anywhere to talk about what she really knows about, and that she became comfortable enough and has actually spoken in person in front of maybe 5,000 people. Is that right, Anne?
Not quite 5,000. No, I'm very comfortable speaking to an audience of at least that.
Oh, there we go.
That size. Yeah. Many presentations, many podcasts, done many.
I was handed a paper bag and told to breathe into it because I was freaking out. That would have been 40 years ago, my early 20s. And I was asked, would you lead songs at a women's retreat? Oh, sure. Had been in choir. I had sung solos in a microphone. No problem. And I didn't think about it again. Well, I'd never been to this yearly retreat. And here came women that I had known as a kid from all over the Northwest or had heard about. And they're all out there. And I'm going, what have I signed up for? Oh, we're expecting 400. And that was way out there for me. And I remember breathing into a paper bag. And the best thing that helped me was that I realized I was there to support the keynote speaker. I was there to set the mood, or to give courage to the ladies in the audience to get their singing going before we listened. And I thought, if I'm just here just to help this one person and to give them a good experience or to warm up the audience, then that's totally worth it. And even this whole camera thing has become, I'm talking to one person. Even if people are gathered together in close quarters, there's only one person that is going to hear today. And look, he just arrived. It's Steve Berger. Hi, Steve. I'm just talking to you so I don't have to be nervous about this huge group or anything at all. I'm just here for you. And so is New and Tommy, Jeff and Anne. And you were on screen pretty quickly. You were first. So I would like to know what you have to say about grief, because somewhere in this pile, I wrote an article and my husband said, if you expand that, you can make a book. And I really didn't understand until a lady said, I've had this book on my desk now. And when people come in for my expertise, I let them thumb through your book while I'm kind of working at my computer on the information. And she encouraged me that it was so short and so practical that in two cases, the people basically said the same thing, that they felt like they could take a step forward in their grief because here was something they could do, something that was not asking them to get ready for a big trip and climb a high mountain and, do all this. It was just one simple thing at a time. And I thought, my husband was right. He has experienced more grief, I would say, more grief in more ways than I have. And he felt like the article was helpful to him. So I did expand it to a tiny book. All that to say, I get excited about people grieving healthfully. It's if you have any life at all, there is going to be loss. So to be equipped and to be encouraged and to have power and feel that I recognize that I'm sinking into maybe a different phase of grief. Hey, I've got Ann Allen, who I'm going to tune in on what she's got. I'm going to buy what she's offering. I'm going to see some of her YouTubes and just be able to recognize this in myself. So please, I'm making this up. How about if I have you tell the tell the real stuff? Go ahead.
Well, thanks so much for having me, first of all. I really appreciate it. And I love what you said about having something that was really simple for someone to read. As you probably know, excuse me, I've just written my first book, which is called Talking Grief, right here. And it's really to do just what you said. It's to help people to come at grief from a different point of view. I use a different kind of technique to help people get through their grief. And I look at it from a different viewpoint because there's so much misinformation out there, Christine, as you probably have realized. And a lot of it just keeps people stuck. And my idea of approaching grief is to create a safe space where people can really express what they're feeling instead of shutting them down. And by shutting them down, what I mean is we come at trying to help people from a very compassionate and heartfelt space, which most of us, somebody's grieving, we want to help them, right? The first thing is you want to hand them some tissues, you want to hug them, you want to take the pain away. Most natural thing in the world, absolutely nothing wrong with that. The problem is when someone has a broken heart or they've experienced a loss like they've never known before, it can scare the bleep out of them. And they start to shut down because I have no idea that I could feel like this. And, I often share with people, I have felt homicidal rage. Now, I haven't acted on it. I'm saying that in case the FBI is listening. I haven't acted on it. And please, if you do feel that, please do seek help. But my point is, those feelings are normal and natural. I'm going to repeat that again. That seems really weird to say that homicidal rage is normal and natural to have that feeling, but it is. That's the spectrum. It can be all the way from that down to complete apathy, like I don't give a bleep, right? So that alone, just people experiencing things that are completely unnatural to them or feeling unnatural to them, can really side rail us and send us what I call into going underground. And then we walk around with saying things like, I'm fine, I'm good. No, really, I got it all under control. Whereas in fact, you really don't. And you walk around with a broken heart for decades for most people. And you're walking around trying to deal with something that is beyond possible comprehension.
That's new to me. And it makes sense that someone would say, what is going on in me? And fear may not be what you recognize at first. Exactly. That you're just thinking, I'm just mad at anything or directed at particular people. I'm grateful that you said that because sometimes grief isn't about a life being ended, but the kind of life. I do recall a man saying, this young guy just destroyed my daughter because of his not keeping his promise that he said to her a while back of not being faithful. And he went to counseling. He said, I am feeling the same way. I want to kill him and I need help. And I'm so glad that what is going on in me, I have always been the helper, the fixer, but then I always could when it came to my daughter. I could always help. I could always stand in the way. I could always find a solution. And I'm so glad that he went and that that person let him speak it, even to the point that he spoke it to me and said, "This is how I was feeling." And I'm
Yes,
like,
yes,
I can
yes,
understand that. I can understand where you want that person to feel the destruction that they've placed upon someone that you love, and that they, they came to a new point in their life of recognizing. So
yeah,
I really like that. Um, everyone else is so politely muted right now. If you unmute, you're next. Here comes the race. In first place is okay, Tommy. Tommy, please. I know that I hesitated to allow you to the screen because he's going to talk about fitness, something that I am not an expert in.
Uh,
Not right, right?
Fitness is a part, but no, I do much more. That's why it is lifestyle fitness coaching, and I say fitness coaching because I have a 48 years background, starting lifting weight of resistance training. Actually, sport much longer because as a 7-year-old, like most kids in the Netherlands, they played. That was not the right thing for me, so I ended up a year later in martial arts, and uh, there I could find my thing, and that's probably also why I get my first shit of mindset and meditation. I started very young with Asian people, and then you get meditation. By 18, I was in my first Buddhist teacher in the Netherlands, and I had here a lot. So when grief, then my parents, of course, they were not Buddhists, but it is always a mindset thing. So grief also, it is how you feed it. It is same when you nurture your plant at home, you give it water. And so is also everything what you do in your mind. You give it water, you feed it, and then it grow bigger. So my parents both decide not to get buried, but burn and then throw the ashes away. So you have nothing to mourn around, you know, because then you feed again the negativity. My mom say, no, I don't want that you have a sport and that you go there and then, oh, I miss you so. No, you must be in the mind, in the heart, and remember the fun parts. So then grief is a total different story. Grief is almost fun because you have fun memories. You don't think about someone is not in this present anymore. And maybe it is. Maybe time is an illusion. Maybe history, the future, is all at the same time. It is just what you give attention to. So in my lifestyle fitness coaching, I go many ways. So I have certifications in spiritual life coaching and holistic and so many other things. And that I use with my experience because you can have so many titles, but you must have lived it. So my first thing when I had a client and he had trouble with losing weight and he wanted to do fasting. Me as an old-time bodybuilder, I was eating 4, 5, 6 times per day. I had nothing but fasting. My only fast was the time between two meals. And then my first fasting ever was 48 hours in the weekend. So my wife have nice special things and she said, I don't gonna fast with you. This for you and your client. So then again, a common mindset. Don't give attention what she is doing. If you don't give attention to it, then it doesn't bother. So most people they feed what they suffer with because they constantly think about it, right? And here we are about aging better. Then I always say use it or lose it, and it is as well in the physical, so that you do some physical activities. Don't sit only at home because if you don't use it, you lose it. But for most older people, it is also about they stop stimulating the mind. I'm running now close in January. I'm going to be 65, and I still learning. Even in my sport or whatever, you have other views. I have my way, but it doesn't mean that I can learn something new. And even I'm a certified life coach. I just start this month with again because they have a little bit different approach. So I see life or aging as a disease, and you can let it go, or you can keep the medicine. And medicine is living life now in the present. Here, my wife, a devoted Buddhist, say, no, you must live now. Tomorrow, you don't know, or you wake up tomorrow morning. There's no contract. Even if you are totally healthy, you don't know what comes tomorrow. People forget to live now in the present moment. And that is what I use in my lifestyle fitness coaching also. And fitness is just in my lifestyle coaching program, because most people, they stop working out, and that start already. You have old people that are just over 30. Last month I started with a client, he's 32, so I'm double his age, but he cannot catch up with me. So age is just a number. It's about your lifestyle. And another aspect for me is that I teach people about nutrition, because nutrition, food is medicine, but we are used to eat so much garbage. And because I'm living now in another part of the world, and then uh, one time I was going back to the Netherlands, and it was 5 years in between. I was always a lover for Asian food or non-Dutch food, but there are some things that you was eating when I was living back home. But after 5 years coming back and never eat it, my neural pathways in my brain, they have no association anymore with the food. So the pleasure that I normally had back then, because you was eating it more regular and you had your whole story in your mind why you would love that food so much, was not there anymore. It was a memory from the past, and the food didn't taste the same. It didn't give me the same pleasure. So after 4 or 5 days, I was going to an Asian toko and buy some food and cook something so that I nurture what I was missing, my daily food, what I eat here. So you always can reprogram your mind. If people say, oh no, I cannot do that. No, you don't want to do that. If you want, you can. You know, there's
Tommy,
always.
I had put you into this box. I thought he's going to come on and he's going to say all those things that make me feel guilty that I'm not more active and all this, you know. And I thought, no, be brave. Let him on the screen. People need to hear about this. And then you just took us in a different direction. One of the things, so I'm wrong. So glad that you were willing to come on and expand me out of that narrow little thing that I put you in. Oh no, this guy. It's one of those. One of the things that you said was feeding what you pay attention to. And if you're paying attention to suffering, then
Yes.
that's what you're feeding. It reminds me of alternative ways to deal with pain, because people will bring a lawsuit for pain and suffering. And I've learned that those are two different things, that you can have a pain. And if the person is feeding that, thinking, oh, this pain probably means that I'm dying, or that a tumor that I did have is coming back on another part of my body. They've just been so focused on that pain or on pain in general, and it causes more suffering. And there's just alternative ways to take your attention elsewhere, to remind yourself that this pain has already been correctly diagnosed. It is not leading to death. It's not leading to something worse. Just everything about not letting not letting the suffering determine everything else in your life. if you have chronic or long-lasting pain.
Hmm.
You said a word that comes up often about a mindset, and you speak about mindfulness.
Hmm.
And I'm just wondering if there's a Venn diagram with that mindset and mindfulness, are they interchangeable? Do they have their own? I would open this to anyone, but if you would like to just speak on the things that you have developed. And wait a minute, Tommy and don't you already know each other?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
We
came
know
to
each other
me.
from the Hounds of Business community, and so
Hounds of Business.
it's a like-minded, and that we're not only blessed to be a part of another community, and now joining with you, Christine, is like Ann here and Jeffrey. It's the expansion of our really what people always think about, the collective consciousness and all the things that the superficial material world, right? That we look at when we talk about aging, right? This lovely topic that bring in, and when people are afraid, when you mentions is, and before I get started, of course, is thank you and for inviting us to be here, myself, and for all those who are listening live and on the replay. It's I'm honored and blessed to be here, and thank you for joining us on this really insightful conversation from all walks of life, right? And really on the aspect of aging and how we can use mindfulness for me, and that's really go back to mindset, right? Holistic approach, because if we talk about other hats, then I'm also that pharmacist hat of the clinical data and all, but it's really what I found is that when we lead with, for instance, when we tie into the topic of aspect of aging, is everyone will have to their time in life is very finite. We don't know when that next moment, we're not here anymore. But when we are mindful of that we are blessed to be here in this present moment, then we are really dive in, be in this moment to really get to know everyone here. But also we know where we come from, where all of our baggage, what people think of is we all have things that we take care of, kids, as a mother, as a father, as grandparents, or we all can envision that either we one day will leave this human experience and go to a different realm. And for me, in the spiritual aspect on mindfulness that I see is that, and this is something that I don't know if because of what I've gone through a lot of loss, I've gone through a lot of illness on family and myself, coming back almost like sepsis and coming back here. It also makes us, it's an awakening moment for us to realize that our precious moment here at this moment, what are we doing, not just as in living, right? Living is this, your, whether you have family, you have kids or pets or other things, but it's the shared experience, the commonality that bring us together. And so how do we infuse all what people associate pain, but that's part of our journey. It's part of when people talk about aging, you're gonna have wrinkles, you're gonna have saggy skin and things, but that's the beauty. It's not about the, when people look at it, they always think of, well, I want to, I mean, no offense to people who dye hair or color their hair, but it's the wisdom, right? The wisdom that you get to experience life and grace to age into your 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, whatever, 100 to your age. And that is how you see life. But then if you visualize the circle of life, anyone can pass away any moment of time. So the aging part is a natural process. But how do we get an opportunity to say, I get an opportunity to grow and transform myself? Because every day we transform ourselves with wisdom and compassion is how I infuse mindfulness. And when we talk about grief, it's like this hit hard for me recently in our Hounds of Business community, Jess Harvey, passed away. And this is something that, when people talk about grief, people thinking that judgmental of, I need to move on, I need to, be focused in doing things. But grief is a universal experience, but also that we deserve our own compassion and attentions because of what we all go through.
Yes.
So you need time to grieve. You need time to really honor your grief and let
Mm.
whatever tears, whatever frustration, whatever that you feel, so you don't feel that guilty, that survival guilt. Because,
Mm.
I've gone through my own journey of losing a loved one, young to old, to illness, to cancer, to a variety of things that people would also being shocked. But I think it's the abrupt, the shock, the unknown, what people
Yeah.
always scare of. But this the part of, I think, is when we visualize mentally and spiritually, we know that our time is up any moment. How do we bless others in the time that we have now? And how do we leave when we're not no longer here? How do people remember us and continue on what we want to do? And that is what we're here for. That's, for me, I think, is how we really infuse it every day, intentionally, of showing up how our words to ourselves, to
Mm.
others, because it's a reflection, a mirror image of us. When we say, people who have a lot of the inner child that they haven't, or things, that trauma they haven't unworked, or really to unblock some of those things that have holding them from growth, is because of their own insecurity. People who talk about, blaming and putting on others, maybe they're blaming themselves for someone else's when they couldn't, or should have, or could and would have, all those that people put in the narrative. But everyone, you can't, um, there's a term that is, you can share all your knowledge, you can share your experience, even the same family, that even in my own family, I can share all what I've known. We
Mhm.
all live in the same household, but everyone philosophy of what love, what joyful, what pleasure meaning in this human experience is different. And that's what we get to, let's be mindful and not judge other people by our own
Mm.
definition of what peaceful, calm, and successful life is all about. And I think that when we realize that they have lived a fulfilled life, maybe their time is meant only for this amount of time, we're willing to eventually, when we overcome and seen a lot of it, we also know that there's only one thing we can choose and get to choose and be the change is ourselves. We can't change other people,
Mm.
no matter how much we wish we want other people to have what we have. And but that's also intruding, no matter how good it is, it's into their own. It's like we're planting the seed, but let it sprout on its own time. I think that is the power of really being mindfulness and being here, being supportive, being present for those in our community, our family, our, whether it's church, temple, spiritual practice, prayers, meditations. For me, holistic approach, and of course, plant-based nutrition. If you can infuse some of that, I guarantee, as more and more studies come out, plant-based nutrition will also help with the aging, to help you not only stay youthier, but prevent a lot of chronic disease, and
Mm.
spiritual aspect. There's so much that I want to just share. I don't want to fire hose everybody and say, but it's truly, it's, um, and I will always say that wisdom is not with age. Not everyone will look like the same as Tommy, even if they live in the same household. Let's say are twins, right? Or you have twins that are same family, same experience, might be different. And that is where we have to be willing to accept them for who they are and just be there. And how can you be more kind? How can you give more compassionate and be you? Then the lights that you have will radiate and will, not only other people's lives will be touched by just your being. And that is what mindfulness is all about, is how can we really be in the present moment and live it in awe and be blessed and blessing others. For me, that's, um, really I really do. I have two kids, small, 9 and 5, and I tell them that what if, you don't get to see mommy, even not today, the next hour. I drop them off at camp. What then what would you need to do? I tell them because you don't want to hide, you don't want to prevent and saying you don't want to bubble because you also want to
Mm.
give them all the possibility because they get to choose. You have to teach them and give them the tools so then they can navigate and deal with things that come through life. Death is part of life. And that is something I think is not easy, but we have to be able to find a way to be innovative and meet people where they are and where the curiosity so we can also help them plant that seed so that way they can still not only have that self-compassionate for themselves so that way they can have compassion for others.
Mm. Earlier, the statement was made that aging is not a disease. And it actually reminds me of Charles Schultz, who did the comic strip Peanuts Gang with Charlie Brown, Snoopy, and the bunch. He wrote a little paperback. I probably don't still have it, but it was called Teenager is Not a Disease. And so the mindset of, and I hear it often, I will hear someone talking and going, well, they're 14, and you know what 14-year-olds are like. And then I heard a guy on my husband and Russ Hedges' morning show on Monday saying, I love my sassy daughter. She calls me onto the carpet. An old term for dad, you say this, you say it's your core value, you are not living it. I also hear, as I was in line for a fundraiser dinner that was being provided at the senior center. So I'm going teen and seen, teen years and seniors. Someone was in line and said, man, did I take guff at home when someone said, well, where are you going out to dinner? Well, I'm going over to the senior center. Oh, great. What is it going to be? Mushy green vegetables and tapioca pudding. It's like, it's going to be homemade pie. And these ladies have been cooking in the kitchen. It's going to be awesome. And, and just that idea of what old people are like. And it's like, no wonder people kind of feel this trepidation of, I've never been old before. I've been young, or I've been trying to feel young, stay young, appear young. We're all trying to kind of deceive each other. It's like, I'm still young because I'm afraid to advance. And it's like your whole life, you've been advancing. You've been wanting to go forward with your passions and everything. Hey, Russ Hedge just jumped in. Did he hear me talking about him? He's in the comments right now. I know my husband pop him in there. Yep, here he comes. There
Hi,
you
Russ.
go.
Happy Wednesday.
Is
Yeah,
he a
and
hound
I love
now?
that.
Is he an official hound?
Yes, he
Yes.
is an official hound. But I
Oh
love
my
that,
goodness.
Christina. When you mentioned about that, because that's the thing that we should normalize and not make it a taboo. Because when people treat little kids and thinking they're not smart, then they don't know. So the words you use, you think that they don't pick up, even if they're little. So the words, our action, our tone, our gesture, our action, everything, it's not aligned, we teach, but we're not walking, as they call it. We're not walking the talk and just talking the talk, then it does not align. The same thing as, when we realize, we say, well, elderly people, when we label it and put people in a box, we all go through that process. And when they're younger, when it's a full circle of life come back, when you get older and you can't walk, like that are what normal people think, oh, okay, you gotta just walk and not have any assistant, like whether it's a cane, a wheelchair, or any assistant. But that's a process of when you're little. You're little, you didn't know how to walk. You have to use other means, like a stroller, right? And you didn't know how to eat, so you have to eat certain. It come back in full circle, and that's why, for me in spirituality, that karma is that whatever you want, you call out. However you want your life to be, you live in it. Everything will come, and it's all for our lessons. And if we don't really be respectful, be kind, and be really caring and compassionate for our elderly, when you get there, you can have those people who's going to treat you the same way. Because if you haven't treat others right, what come back is like you reap what you sow, right? It's
Mm.
really, no matter what religion, this is just the law of the universe. And
Yes.
so that is something that we have to be intentional and how we talk to our kids, whether they're little, they're teenager to adult. They're very smart. It's just knowing how we speak their language, how they get motivated and demotivated by hearing us talk about, oh, because they're teenager. What's wrong with teenager? They like to explore. They have a lot of creativity, right? But we want them to be in one way, and if they don't go through our route, then we call them that, they a rebel or whatever we want to call, they're, and we put labels, and no matter what it is, people, and we can sense it. And I think that is something that we need to, the mental health and our well-being, and part of aging is the mental health is being belonging in a community and how we support one another. It does not matter about age, because if we really see one as the mirror image of I'm seeing myself in a different form, how do I be more kind and be patient if it was your family in front of you? Your
Mm.
love, most treasure, or your divine, right? Because people always say, if you're thinking me as whether God or Buddha in front of you, that hate you, throw rocks at you, how are you gonna treat them? That is where it will change how you treat others and treat yourself. That's the transformation.
It's
Yeah.
funny when you say about kids and that you tell them how what to do and they copy, right? So
Mhm.
in Bruce Lipton from epigenetics, he say we get programmed in our first 7 years. So that is how everything is set, but it is not set in stone, because if you're in a different environment, you can learn different things and you can reprogram your body, because your body is programmed by the food, right? Food is natural, not all the factory produced. So then I come in my topic about fitness. You don't eat all the factory produced. I always say limit as much as possible what sit in a can or in a pack. Have food on your plate what was alive before it came there. Something that you can grow in your garden. And I remember from my grandparents, a small village, and then the butcher had his own stable. So it was not from some big factory farm with cows in a box. No, the cows were walking in the grass and stuff like that. And then meat is not bad. When people say go plant-wise, well, most people don't eat enough vegetables and fruit. For me, I eat half kilo fruit per day, mix. I start my day with fruit and after lunch and in the evening. But meat is not wrong. But the meat that we get is wrong. Think like this: for most Americans, with the food they eat and all the medication that they are forced into,
Mm.
and you come then on an exotic trip on an island with cannibals, they will run away. They say, "Oh, we go plant-wise. We don't want to have this meat. That is totally spoiled. It is rotten. It is sick to the bone." That's why we need to take care of ourselves. And then
So even the
Dr.
cannibals won't want us. We're not organic
No,
enough.
because there's so much
It's like,
fat in us, right?
if we eat these
Over the
guys,
years, we eat so
it'll
much.
kill us. It'll shorten our
Well,
lifespan. Oh,
we can
Tommy,
see
I'm
that
going
it
to remember
happens.
that. I'm
Yeah,
going to
you can
remember
see that it
that.
happens when we eat all the factory produced cows, right? That doesn't grow up in a real way how an animal should grow up, and it is full with antibiotics and stuff like that. That is what make us sick. What we feed our cattle with. If you have a normal cattle, there's nothing wrong. So when Dr. Nu also talk about all the spiritual and stuff like that, let's see it from this way. We are energetic beings having a biological experience.
That's very true.
Right?
Oh, Jeffrey, I'm so glad. I was just going to say there have been so many different things that we've been bouncing around. And one thing is that every age, or I should say every individual in each day, there's going to be aspects of that time in their life, what's happening in the environment. And if there's anything that we've learned from the last several years, it's that isolation and is life shortening, and it takes away the potential of a person continuing to interact and to be I don't know, everything that you've always been up to that time that you became isolated. It's like I used to make a difference in lives, and you are about not letting people stay isolated. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's fascinating, and thank you for having me, Christine. And
Absolutely.
what a fascinating panel and fascinating topic. You know, you get older. I'm older than all you guys probably put together, but it's, to me, it boils down to the attitude of gratitude and um, uh, and humor. You know, so we're all laughing, and what a wonderful thing. You know, so it's a matter of being thankful. I think if you're thankful, if you're grateful, you're praying, you're meditating. You know, it's the basis of all of it. I believe it's gratitude, the attitude of gratitude. And I think the reason we're here is to serve each other, to take care of each other. That's why we're here. So we talk about grief, we talk about good health, we talk about teaching our children, and I believe that you know, if we're serving each other, we have purpose, and that purpose keeps us positive. You know, you mentioned isolation. When we, you know, my area is hearing. And so if you get older, you have all sorts of different contributing factors to hearing loss. But when people can't hear, they go through 3 different stages. At first, they ask people to repeat, you know, and I had a lady, I fit hearing aids now for some 15 years. And I had a lady tell me that her best friend told her, "Oh, never mind." And I just really felt it right down my backbone, that her best friend essentially told her, "You are not worth the effort it takes for me to repeat myself again." So they get stung like that, and they don't ask people to repeat anymore. What they do is they start faking it. I had a husband and wife, and I had a husband and wife, and they're telling a story of where they were at a party at their friend's house for dinner, and they left, and they got out to the car, and the wife said, "What did you do that for?" And he said, "What?" And she said, "You agreed to watch their dog for a week." so you know, so then people get in trouble faking it, right? So they don't fake it. And what they do is they say, "I don't want to go. I don't want to go to the wedding. I don't want to go to the party. I don't want to go. I just stay here," and avoid it all, you know. And that's isolation. And when that happens, you know, you're not living. you're missing out a great deal. And your purpose, the reason we're here, our purpose, to serve each other, to interact with each other. We're social beings, and so that's all taken away. So it's just been so gratifying for me to help people with their hearing, because it changes their lives, and they're connected. So I have a bit of experience in a previous lifetime of ergonomic design. In fact, I'm using a keyboard. See if I can show it to you here. My brother and I invented this keyboard, and it's ergonomically designed, and it allows people to type in a natural posture. So I noticed that people were having trouble inserting the hearing aids in their ears. They hang it, they use their fingers to pinch the wire, and then the last step is to use their fingertip and try to insert it in their ear. And people have tremor, they have numbness. I had surgery on my neck here. There's my scar. And I have a little numbness in my fingertips. And people have numbness, arthritis, they have a shoulder mobility issue, and they have all sorts of issues that make it give them less patience. They have less patience trying to get that in their ear, and then before they get frustrated and the heck with it. So I invented something called Groove Button. And so Groove Button is an ergonomically designed and universally designed interface for the end speaker. So it interfaces with the fingertip and allows people to control it and get it in faster and easier. And so my mission is to have the hearing aid manufacturers adopt it. And we just released a patented retrofit. So now they don't have to change the speakers. They can add this retrofit on, slide it on the speaker. And we're thinking it'll cost $15, about $15 retail, to add this to their current hearing aid speakers and help people, because they'll give up. They have difficulty. In fact, the industry did a study that indicated 40% of new hearing aid users have difficulty inserting their hearing aids. 40%. Now, that's going to include all sorts of people with physical limitations, and disabilities and that kind of thing. And so this is a very simple assistive device, and I'm very proud to be working on it. And it's my purpose, and I'll be fitting hearing aids again as well. And it just gives me great joy, and that's my purpose. I've experienced, we all have experienced grief, and we've all, to some degree or another, we've gone through some tough times. But it's about enjoying every moment, being grateful for every moment, and serving each other.
Yeah. I have some practical questions.
Sure.
I turn and it's like I right into my microphone. When I served as a caregiver, I was in the individuals' homes.
Yes.
And I had concern. My nails had to be short. That was part of the job. But I had concerns that I wouldn't cause them any pain, that I wouldn't accidentally scratch. So I'm assuming that you or I could use Groove Button to insert. And I'm wondering why so often I showed up at whatever time in the morning or midday, and it wasn't forgetfulness. It's they hadn't bothered to put in the hearing aids, which affects everything. I'm entering the room. I'm, startling, just everything, just things that are going on in the neighborhood. And that contributes to the shutdown on the brain. You're just not aware of, the birds or the leaf
Safety.
blowers or whatever it is, or a big moving van pulls up and you miss the whole thing, and it's like, what happened to those neighbors?
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah. Well, it's true. It's people don't have the patience. When you're older, you just don't have the patience you did when you were a kid, and when you have a physical limitation that contributes to that short period of time, you have to be successful. And the Groove Button won the Caregiver Friendly Award in 2022.
Yay.
Yeah, because it helps caregivers wiggle it in to the ear canal. Because ear canals can bend and they can angle and they go around corners, they can narrow, they can do all sorts of things. And caregivers aren't going to have an otoscope to look in and determine which direction. But with this thing, you can just kind of wiggle it and it'll find its way in because you can control it. But when you struggle with it, it's just a heck with it. I don't have the patience, and they leave it. And now they're learning about how important getting those signals to the brain. What goes in here is processed over here almost entirely, right? And so getting that stimulation, those electrical signals to the brain, making a chemical reaction in the brain is healthy, very healthy for the brain. And they're realizing that. So go ahead, Ann.
Oh, well, first of all, I just want to say, Tommy and Dr. Nu, I love all the essences and the wonderful you're bringing. I agree wholeheartedly with everything you've said. And Jeffrey, I just want to piggyback on what you've been saying there. A lot of people do not realize that grief is not just about death and dying and divorce, but it's also about loss of physical and mental abilities. And what you just described, you and Christine together, talking about how people, if they can't even get their hearing aids in, there's such an incredible amount of loss with that because they're not showing up fully for their life. And like you said, they don't bother putting it in. So they really shut out from life. They isolate themselves. They go underground. And it's really becomes less than even half a life lived for these people. And a lot of folks can't wrap their heads around that. It's like, it's just a hearing aid. No, it's a passport to a full world for them. Just as not eating correctly or exercising, as Tommy's saying, that is a passport to a whole world lived for us. And the same with Dr. Nu. If we are not present and we're not mindful, we are missing out, and that is a passport to a life whole lived for us. So anytime we are not supportive of each other, and I love what you were saying there, Jeffrey, it's all about being grateful. It's all about, we have to support each other. Anytime that we don't allow that to happen, we're really doing ourselves and so many others such a disservice because we're not showing up fully present in a way that matters to us, not to anybody else, but we have to take care of us first. And that's something a lot of us aren't comfortable with. But if we're not showing up in a way that matters to us and feels right for us, we can't help ourselves and we can't help each other. So, moving forward, I believe we really do have to encompass everything we're talking about here today. And it's really not that difficult. Just for a lot of things, it's just a little minor mind shift.
Yeah, I like to add lovely on that, and it's something that I've seen is either two extremists when part of aging or anyone are thinking whether they're newly diagnosed with cancer and they're short-lived, and those who are in their aging saying either I have to do everything, so then they get burnout because they're just do everything and not really knowing what the purpose of what they're truly that loving. You can do a lot, but you have to have that sense of fulfillment and joy when you're doing it and through life. And sometimes people who either give up and don't have a purpose and feel like, well, I'm content, I don't need to do anything. You work all your life, so now you retire, and then you don't do anything. But then that also go down to health, the physical health, the mental health, and then the isolation part when you mention is you're not showing up in your community, you're not showing up for yourself. So then you just go in the dark by yourself. And that's where the supporting of be able to kind of reconnect you with your purpose, come back to who you are, and maybe you can serve and not have to make money. You can just donate to a foundation, a nonprofit, right? Do volunteer.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
I think it's getting you physically out, mentally, physically, and somehow embedded in that spiritual aspect that your soul is so content in every moment. That is where you can prevent the isolations, because isolation is a very, not only leading to depressions, a lot of chronic diseases go down very, very fast. And
Yeah.
that's why I think it's so important when Christine mentioned about the isolation, and when Jeffrey mentioned is like the hearing aid, because if you're not able to hear, you get frustrated. People, you talk without it and people don't hear you, and you don't hear, you scream, and it's everybody get frustrated. So then you either have to find a solution for it, or you're like, well, I don't want to deal with that group. I'm just going by myself. There's the isolation that you shut down. And I think that is where we all can be a part of how we can encourage our loved ones, encourage our family, our communities. It's not a it's not a taboo to have assisted to help you hear, see, walk, whatever it is, no matter what part of aging, whether it's cancer or not. But I
Yeah.
think that is how we show. You have to be able to willingly admit that that's your frustration, right? Sometimes willing to look in the mirror and say,
Right.
I'm frustrated
Right.
myself. I need
And
to, help, and supporting
yeah.
each other.
And on top of that, I think a lot of people are not aware you can be very isolated right in the middle of a crowded room.
Mhm.
And I think
Yes.
that takes a lot of perspective for some people, because they shut down. You can be lonely within a family. You can be
Mhm.
lonely within a social group, and people don't even
Yes.
realize that. And that itself can bring in very, very deep grief for a lot of people, a sense of loss and grief around it. So if we're not able to show up in a way that matters to us, then yeah, we can definitely be in that sense of isolation. I get many people who've been isolated for decades in their grief because they just haven't realized it, first of all, and they don't really know what to do about it. So I think my mission in life is really to help create a safe place where people can express themselves without fear of judgment or values being placed upon them.
I promised to end this before the end of the hour. I really regret that promise. We are just starting to get into the good meat with no antibiotics put into it. We're just starting to really chew on stuff, and I do have to simply say, what is one thing that you want? My husband, D. Scott Smith, motivational listener, is my hubby producer, and he's been faithfully putting all of your tags, links, stuff on the screen. But Anne, you have a new book out. What is the title?
It's called Talking Grief: How to Heal the Gap Between Those Who Are Grieving and Those Who Want to Help Them. It is
Wow.
it's a bite-sized piece of things for people. I've made it so that it's very readable. It has an action plan in it to help people to actually sit down and to figure out how they're going to talk to each other and create that safe space I was talking about.
Awesome. Hey, hi, Joe Hosh. Nice for you to come in. Great and powerful discussion, kids. There you go. All great messages. I love to battle isolation, and he does. Hey, Dr. New. Hey to everyone else. I look forward to connecting with you all. So watch for Joe. Jeffrey,
Yes, ma'am.
Groove Button?
Yes,
Yay, I said it right.
you did.
How do people find Groove Button or you?
Well, probably the best way is right there on the screen, eachear.com. Eachear.com. And that will talk, all about the groove button retrofit, which we're just about to launch. We're just about to start off with that. Yeah, it's
Oh,
like
I'm so
we're
glad.
working on the media kit and everything right now, and the marketing strategy. And this is something that can be added to a hearing aid receiver retail once we need the manufacturer's support. So that's the whole mission, is to get the hearing aid manufacturers to work with us. And it'll be $15. That's what we're ballparking the retail price of this thing, to help people so that when you go and visit them, they'll have their hearing aids in. And it's been tested with prototypes, and all of it is on eachear.com. Yeah.
Love it. Tommy, it's midnight. You've
Well, no
stuck
problem.
with us. What,
Mhm.
do you
I'm
want
still,
people to get a hold of you?
I'm still energized. And Mike from the Hounds of Business, he always say, man, you never sleep. Well, if you have a better foundation, then you can handle more. So for people, when you talk about fitness or exercise, it is much more. I always slap people on the face, on the butt from, oh, you're so proud of yourself that you work out for 1 hour and the rest of the day you sit on your butt. You don't do nothing. It is more important that you spread over the day and have some movement. So I start my day after my morning meditation with a walk. So I walk 15, 20 minutes. You can either walk or bicycle. So when people go about losing fat, you don't want to lose weight, but you want to lose fat. And fat is also unhealthy for sure in the midsection. Walk after your meals, 10, 15 minutes. You don't have to run or whatever, just walk. Put your car a little bit further away from the entrance from the shopping mall or your Tesco Lotus or whatsoever, so that you have a couple meters to walk. That are the little things that are more helpful than 1 hour exercise in the gym or on the tennis court or whatever. Spread over the day, have more movement, don't sit down.
That's a mindset. I'm done. I have finished my activity for the day. And it's like, yeah, blah, now I get to be a blob. Good mindset. And New, how about you? I know that you've got a show on Fridays.
Yes, I do have a mindful mingle on LinkedIn every Friday at 12 Central Time right now. I might adjust according to my kids' needs and whatnot, but I always show up for my community every week. But I really want to really spread this normalities of all age, but also it's how can we really tap into things that we can not only self-regulate our nervous system, so we can be more calmer, more at peace, and when we deal with stress and things that come up in life, and that's part of aging is how can we deal through the storm and being able to be calm. And that mindfulness is a very wonderful tool that if we're able to practice, even a few minutes a day can lead to big result, just small changes and being intentional. And really, once we start to do it, then you see so much beauty and changes and around. And that's something that, of course, I have my newsletter, Mindfulness Momentum and Healing Horizons, like a journey to wellness. Those are things that I like to share so that way people can get practical tips and strategies and also to really implement daily. It's not about hearing it and then lose it. You got to put in the work to make it happen. If no changes, then nothing will change. So the only thing you can get to choose is you get to transform. We all change every day. So don't be afraid and just accept and really live in and gracefully transform. And that's how we transform every day, like today with Jeffrey, Tommy, Christine, and of course Scott in the back and Anne and all those who are listening. I'm really grateful. I'm blessed to be here with you. So till next time, thank you all, Christine. And it,
Yes.
really, I do, and I believe that all of us connected for a reason. So nothing is out of alignment. Everything is brought to us for a reason. So we're connected and will reconnect with a purpose, to serve others. I love that is what people lack, is thinking the mindset of we have to that's how we serve. We serve others by sharing what we go through, what we're able to help. Maybe someone will resonate and can help them. So thank you, Christine, for having us.
I'm so grateful. And Jabril, he just said hi. And I haven't met Jabril before, but for everyone else, including Jabril, agingbeternetwork.com, you'll find the live stream. It's a gray button right near the top, and you can click in and scroll down and choose any of the conversations and just let it play in the background. And always on screen, you'll see ways to get a hold of these guests who bring enrichments and solutions to living, because I learned my very first episode, which was 102 episodes ago, that aging is living, and that it isn't this, it's beyond this moment. So thank you so much for all the wisdom and all the help and all the perspectives that you bring and your great ideas. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful Wednesday. Tommy, have a great sleep. Don't get on any other channels. Stay healthy. I am so grateful for all of you. Bye-bye, folks. Thank you.